Hey everybody, this is Mr. Bodey. I just wanted to walk you through and model this Newsella activity to close out our Nearpod discussing word gaps and how to close them. So our essential question for this unit is, why does fear both excite and terrify us? And to kind of get started, we have a text set that's about fear and suspense. And then for this specific lesson, we're focusing on using context clues to close our word gaps. So before we read, we want to make sure that we've gone completely through the Nearpod and done all the activities because they prepare us for this activity. And then we want to scan the articles and the titles, look at the images that are paired with them, and we want to choose an article that's the most interesting to us. And while we're reading, we want to highlight our word gaps, those words that are unfamiliar or completely unknown, in red. And then in the annotation, we want to define the highlighted word based on the clues from the passage, not by looking it up, but based on what we've gotten from the passage. And then we want to explain the context clues that we used to clarify its meaning. So remember, our context clues that we can use are inferencing, definitions, examples, synonyms. We also have antonyms. Sorry for the pause in my thinking there. Our word parts, and we can also use appositives. All of these the authors use and embed in the text to help us understand what words mean. After we're reading, we want to take the quiz in the activities menu on the right-hand side of the article, and then we also want to answer the question in the writing activity. How did using context clues help you close word gaps today? An extension for if you want to go a little deeper, we can add these words to our personal dictionary in your notebooks, whether they're digital or paper. We want to try to use at least one of these newly closed word gaps in our writing this week. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to pick the article that I pre-selected, which is actually a poem by Edgar Allan Poe. So once it loads, as you can see, there's names on the side. You don't need to pay attention to that. This is my view and not your view. So as we're reading, I'm going to read through the poem, and I'm going to look for words that I don't know or that aren't necessarily familiar to me. So as I'm reading the poem, I'm skimming through it for this exercise, but I want you to actually read through the article. So we see this is about a raven, and this is about Edgar Allan Poe, or the author, the narrator, having lost his love, Lenore, and then a raven comes in and bothers him. So right here at the beginning, I might highlight the word plagued, because even though I know that word from a plague like the Black Plague or the bubonic plague or something like that, I've never seen, we may never have seen it used in this way. So the word plague, we're going to look here, and it says the narrator mourns the loss of his love, Lenore, and is slowly but surely plagued by a raven. So we don't really have a definition. We don't have antonyms or synonyms. We don't have an example. We don't have an appositive. And we don't really have word parts. We could look it up and find the word origin, but we don't really see any word parts here, other than it's past tense because of the ed. So because it's past tense, we know it's a verb and that it's previously happened. So we can do word parts for that. So we'll go ahead and write here that the suffix ed tells me that the word is a verb, and that it's already happened. Then we have our only other option to look at here is inferencing. So I can see that he's mourning the loss of his love, and then slowly but surely plagued by a raven. So my guess is that a raven is coming in and is bothering him or like creeping up on him or something like that. Because he's mourning, it's obviously not wanting to be bothered. And so the fact that it's slowly and surely plaguing him, that's what makes me think that it's like bothering him or it's something he's not wanted. So I'll write that here. Now I'm going to write inferencing, and I'm going to explain the inferencing there. And so then I could share that with y'all. And so whoever reads that article, that poem, you'll be able to actually see that and see me modeling that. And you can also go and look at it and see my thought process there. But I just want to take a second and model for you the thinking we have when we're looking for 2B and we're looking for different types. We might see wrapping and not necessarily know what that means, because when we think of wrapping, we think of music, right? So in this sentence, we see a synonym for, around it, we see the word tapping. And we know tapping means to, to gently or lightly knock on an object. So we use the synonym tapping to help us figure out what the word wrapping means, which we feel it means to lightly tap or knock on a door. So again, there's another example where you have something clearly in the passage, tapping, to help us understand what the word wrapping means. But that's what I'm going to leave you guys with, and I hope that models for you and shows you how to do this in your own reading today.